is switched off as the event is about to begin.
I'm Dr. David Bull, I'm Chairman of Reform UK. I've had a very different backstory. I'm a medical doctor by training, and I've worked for 30 years in television. I've been involved in politics really for many years, but I became a Brexit Party MEP in 2019. I was then deputy leader of the party, and now I'm really proud to say I'm chairman of the party. And so I suppose my passion for politics has always been about fairness. This is about ensuring that people get access to healthcare, that we keep the NHS free at the point of need, but at the same time actually improve the service so people get really good outcomes, and so they are better than we are currently seeing, where we are falling far behind Europe. So for me, it's all about fairness, it's about putting British people first, it's about reinvigorating this great country and putting great back into Britain. I've been on a very long political journey. In 2019, I became a Brexit Party MEP, and one of the proudest moments of my life is voting for Brexit, carrying the Union flag out of the European Parliament. We got on the Eurostar, we took the Union flag back to where it belonged. It's extraordinary to be part of political history, I've no doubt about that. There's something inside that says this is a semblant moment in British history. This is the moment when politics changed for good. I've never felt anything quite like this. I know we're on a mission, I can feel it, I can sense it whenever I go outside and talk to people. People are desperate for change, they're tired of the two-party system, and they believe that Reform UK can deliver it, and we are going to prove them right. The next step for us is to show the public that we are ready, we are competent, we are going to form the next party of government, and we are going to smash the political system. Britain needs reform.
Please welcome to the stage, Dr. David Bull.
Good evening, London! Come on, you can do better. Good evening, London! Well, what a reception. Thank you so much. It is fantastic to be with you here in my home city. I was born in what is now Greater London. I went to medical school here. I live here. I work here. And I am proud to call the capital city of the United Kingdom my home. Well, I'm Dr. David Bull, and as you know, I'm the chairman of this great party. Let me tell you, we are the fastest growing political party in this country. We are the fastest growing political party ever seen in British history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are the largest political party in this country. We have overtaken the Labour Party, we've overtaken the Conservatives, and we have left them trailing in our wake. Now, that feels good, doesn't it? Yes, indeed. Now, until recently, London was one of the greatest cities on earth, if not the greatest. London was founded by the Romans in 43 AD as Londinium, and I think it's fair to say it has witnessed its fair share of historical events. It became a major trading hub due to its river access, and London has survived Viking raids, medieval fires, the Great Plague, of course, of 1665. That killed 100,000 people, and then, of course, the city, or much of the city, was destroyed by the Great Fire of London the following year, and it was then rebuilt. Now, by the 19th century, it had become the world's largest city. Then, in the 20th century, it was heavily bombed in the Second World War. And post-war, it transitioned from an industrial manufacturing heartland into a service-based economy. It became a truly global city in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, and now is one of the world's top financial centers. So, given its very proud history, what exactly has London done for us? Well, London has always played an outsized role in shaping modern medicine, in science, in technology, and also in innovation. Let's look at medicine, my subject, and public health. Edward Jenner pioneered vaccination. He laid the foundation for modern immunology. John Snow's 1854 cholera map of Soho is considered to be the birth of modern public health and disease tracking. Then we look at Joseph Lister. His work in antisepsis transformed surgery from a high-risk procedure into a viable medical intervention. And then Alexander Fleming. Well, he discovered penicillin at St. Mary's Hospital in Paddington. That is the very hospital where I trained. And as a junior doctor and as a medical student, I used to walk across the road looking up at the second floor window. And there, in that window, in that room, is where Fleming discovered penicillin. Quite extraordinary. London is also home to world-leading institutions, including Guy's and St. Thomas's, King's, UCL, and Imperial College. It is also home to the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which is a global authority on infectious disease and public health. And London leads the world in genomics and precision medicine, in vaccine research and clinical trials, in medical AI and imaging. And remember, London was central to the creation and early success of the NHS. The NHS, the world's first large-scale, publicly funded healthcare system. And London has always been the birthplace of science. Michael Faraday's foundational work on electromagnetism and electrochemistry was in London. Watson and Crick discovered DNA, the building blocks of life. Their discovery relied heavily on data from King's in London. The Royal Society, one of the world's oldest scientific academies, was founded in London in 1660. The Royal Institution has presided over public science education and research for over 200 years, and the Natural History Museum has been leading research in biodiversity and evolution since 1880. Then we turn to look at technology and engineering, because London became home to the world's first underground railway. Yes, the London Underground. It was founded in 1863. London has led the way in civil engineering and urban planning. Also in the development of telegraphy and early telecommunications. And Charles Babbage invented the concept of a programmable computer in London in the early 19th century. And today, London is Europe's leading tech hub in fintech, in cybersecurity, AI and data science, and health tech and quantum computing research. In finance, London was the birthplace of modern insurance at Lloyd's of London. It led the development of global financial markets, risk management, and actuarial science. And of course, with my other hat on, let's not forget culture. London excels in publishing and journalism, in film, in television, in digital media. Need I go on? The answer is no. So London's story is truly remarkable. It's a story of inspiration, of success, and also of great triumph. But that belies the very real problems that lie under the surface. London should be a monumental powerhouse, and yet the capital is almost unrecognizable from the city I was born in. London used to be vibrant and welcoming and open and raunchy and exciting, and most importantly, it used to be safe. Over the last few years, I have watched the Mayor of London destroy this once great city. There has been an inexorable decline in what was once the greatest city in the world. Let me tell you,
This is not managed decline. This, ladies and gentlemen, is wholesale destruction of London. We now live in a divided city which has siloed people. Any sense of community cohesiveness has evaporated. The cost of living is ballooned. Shops can't keep their doors open. Pubs and clubs are closing at a phenomenal rate. And our talented young people are leaving London in their droves. That is a disaster for London and also for the United Kingdom. And London is no longer safe. Last year, shoplifting cost London over £200 million. That is £16.7 million every single month. And shoplifting up to £200 has, well, effectively been decriminalised. You can basically go into your local store, nick £199 worth of stuff, and no one will do anything about it. And knife crime, it's up 67% since Sadiq Khan became mayor in 2016. Last year, 116,000 phones were stolen. When you do the maths on that, that is one every 6 minutes. And Londoners waited, on average, wait for this, 16 hours. 16 hours for a police response after they were burgled. Just 2% of burglaries in outer London result in a charge or a summons. That, ladies and gentlemen, is an appalling record. A rape is reported every single hour in London. And 90% of vehicle thefts reported to the Met go unsolved. This is a totally and utterly unacceptable record under Sadiq Khan, which is why he must go, and go now. Well, let's turn now to transport, because fare evasion will cost London £190 million this year. That is enough to fund 3,100 police officers. London has been ranked Europe's slowest major city 5 years running. We all know this. The average bus speed in London is just 9.1 miles an hour. That is slower than a domestic cat or a pigeon in Trafalgar Square. And of course, what does Sadiq Khan do? Well, he continues to reward failure. The head of Transport for London took home a walloping £525,000 last year. That is £1,400 every single day. That is simply unacceptable. Would you not agree? And I think we also agree that Sadiq Khan is out of his depth, he's out of time, and he should be booted out of office. Now, in addition to the mayor, I can't quite believe this, there are 9 deputy mayors. They take home £160,000 a year each. 9 deputy mayors. 548 TfL staff are on 6-figure salaries. And this is unbelievable. In his budget last year, Sadiq Khan spent more on net zero and the environment, £1.4 billion, than he did on policing, which stood at £1.1 billion. And London remains extremely divided. There are 700,000 children in poverty across London. That is roughly 33% of children, a third of children. That figure is unacceptable for a major Western developed economy. The number of people sleeping rough has risen by 90% since Sadiq Khan became mayor. And that is very noticeable, even in central London. And yet, all talk, nothing is ever done about it. And to top it all, there remains a huge housing crisis. Khan has only achieved half of his affordable housing targets last year. Now, when you talk to Londoners, you say, what are the issues that matter to you? The answer is the cost of living, the economy, crime, and the dysfunctional NHS. And Rachel Reeves and the Labour government have no idea how to grow an economy or help business to thrive. Would you not agree? In fact, everything they do has hammered the very people they're meant to be helping. The rise in employer national insurance contributions has forced many businesses to stop recruiting or close their doors. And then in November, Rachel Reeves clobbered people with what can only be described as a car crash of a budget. That budget was a total abomination. It was a naked attack on working Britain. She attacked the strivers, she attacked the doers, she attacked the risk takers. In short, what she did, she put taxes up, she put net migration up, and household income, as a result, has gone down. Rachel Reeves announced plans to freeze the income tax thresholds for a further 3 years, meaning that in 2030, taxes will hit an all-time high. They will equate, and this is almost unbelievable, to a whopping 38% of GDP. And that is an astonishing betrayal from a party that promised before the election, remember this, tax will not go up for working people. That was the mantra that was wheeled out time and time again after the last budget. So I suggest that any semblance of respectability or trust in the government has long since evaporated. And Rachel Reeves also announced plans to tax people's properties and attacked people's savings, capping the tax-free ISA limit at £12,000. That is total madness. Policy is meant to encourage fiscal responsibility and saving. So, is it any wonder that over 250,000 hard-working people have already left the country since Labour came to power? And the real travesty for me is the majority of these people leaving the country are aged between 16 and 35. They've decided there is no future for hard work and aspiration in this country. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a disaster for the United Kingdom and for London in particular. And perhaps the most astounding line item of everything that was announced is the fact they have ring-fenced £1.8 billion for the introduction of digital ID. And that, as you know, is something that no one wants, no one ever voted for, and for which there is absolutely no mandate. Let's be really clear about this. This is all about control, nothing else. We are running full tilt into a dystopian world. And to cap it all, it turns out that Rachel Reeves has been, well, she's been less than honest, I'm being polite, with the British public about the state of the UK finances. Remember all that talk, oh, I've got a £30 billion black hole? Well, that was a complete lie, wasn't it? What it was a ruse to prepare the ground for what Labour always does, tax more and spend more. I'll tell you one thing, London has had enough and it deserves better than this shambolic government. And then we turn our attention to the elephant in the room. The latest figures show that under this failing Labour government, total illegal immigration for last year was 41,000 people. That is up 13% on the previous year. Last year had the second highest number of crossings. And since Labour came to power, an astonishing 65,000 people have come here illegally. Remember, it's smash the gangs policy. It's in tatters, isn't it? It's one in, one out policy is a global laughingstock. It has turned into the hokey cokey. One in, one out, one back in, and so we go on. The latest figures actually show that since Starmer's one-in, one-out deal was signed, over 16,000 people have arrived here illegally. And how many do you think have actually been removed from this country? The answer is 193. Tremendous work. Now, people up and down this country have had enough of this Labour government, and astonishingly, I read today, over 1 million people have signed a petition calling for a general election to be held now, and that is going to be debated in the House of Commons. And let me tell you, as chairman, the rise of reform continues unabated. Here in London, thanks to the extraordinary work of our members and supporters, we are now polling at 21%. We are now in second place in London. Look, I think you'll agree, our progress here has been absolutely extraordinary, and we are only just getting started. And Labour is so worried about how well we are doing and our rise in the polls that they are poised to postpone elections in 22 areas of the country, which is deeply undemocratic. But try as they might, the London elections will be held on the 7th of May. That is just under 17 weeks' time. 17 weeks yesterday and counting. And all 32 borough councils are up for election. Let me tell you, we are going to throw everything at this. We cannot afford to fail. And in many ways, the London elections will be a bellwether of how we are doing nationally. These elections are a referendum on Sadiq Khan's tenure. So, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot afford to be complacent. We have to fight for Londoners, for London, and for the United Kingdom. This is the moment where we have to come together, work together, campaign together, and fight for a new, energized, dynamic, optimistic vision of what London will become under a reform administration. And with all of you here, with all of our supporters and members around London as well, together we will save London, and let me tell you, that fight starts right now. Are you up for the challenge? Well, our first speaker has had a very interesting career. Before he entered politics, he worked as a marketing manager at LBC Radio. He then became a councillor in 1990. He has been a veteran of local government on and off for the last 36 years, so he knows what he is talking about. In 2016, he became a London Assembly member for Havering and Redbridge, and I'm delighted to say he defected to Reform UK last year. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Keith Prince, AM.
Well, welcome everybody. I've got one bone to pick with David though, actually. When he introduced me, he said that I defected. Actually, I prefer to think that I've upgraded. So, I mean, what a fantastic event this is, and the atmosphere here, it's alive. If we can transfer this to the front line, we are going to really do well in London. So, looking around the room, this is the real London. Not the city of City Hall press releases and virtual signalling slogans, but the London of working people. The London that gets up early, the London that works hard, pays its taxes, and then gets punished by Sadiq Khan. We all know London is being run by Sadiq Khan, but it is being run into the ground. After 10 years of Sadiq Khan, London is less safe, less affordable, less free, and has become less fair than it ever was in a generation. And the truth is this: he does not listen. He doesn't care, and he never has, and never will care about what you really want and aspire to. So I'm going to give you an example of the ULEZ. That we all love the ULEZ, don't we? Yeah. Louder. No. Good. I thought I'd joined the wrong party for a minute. Because it's the perfect example of everything that is wrong about Sadiq Khan. ULEZ was never, or the expansion of the ULEZ was never about clean air. It was about raising money for Khan and his pet projects. Londoners rejected the expansion of the ULEZ, and even after TfL ruled out 5,000 submissions, there was still a clear majority of Londoners saying no to the expansion of ULEZ. So London said no, Outer London said an even bigger no. My borough was dead against it, Havering and Redbridge dead against it. And even the Federation of Small Business said no. In fact, I even asked Khan in public, I said, do you think that there should be an expansion beyond the A406-205? And he told me that would not be the answer, and it would be wrong to do so. And then, 2 months later, he announced the expansion of the ULEZ. It is unbelievable. You cannot believe a word that man says. Sadiq Khan, Labour, I'm afraid they do not tell the truth, and that is being polite. So, when knife crime rises, he blames the government. When housing fails, he blames the market. When transport costs soar, he blames motorists. But surely, leadership is about responsibility and about taking responsibility. Well, I can tell you, he takes no responsibility for anything. If it's good, he did it. If it's bad, it's someone else's fault. So, we've seen it, haven't we? We've seen knife crime has devastated our communities. Women feel less safe on public transport. Council tax has risen and rents have exploded. And as we all know, in our high streets, small businesses are deserting London. And yet, he still finds time to lecture the rest of the country on how they should be running their businesses. But friends, there is hope. There's real hope. And you know what that is? It's reform. Reform is the answer. I was delighted on Wednesday when I heard the news that Nigel, our great leader, had announced our candidate for Mayor of London, the fantastic Layla Cunningham. Talk about clean air. Layla will be a breath of fresh air for Londoners. Layla is the mayor that London deserves, and hopefully in a few years' time we can make that happen. But let's go back to our good friend Sadiq. He talks about fairness as well. But while he's talking about fairness, he's hammering the poorest with things like the ULEZ fine. And Mayor, he also talks about inclusion, and yet he ignores Outer London. I'm sure there are many here from Outer London who know Sadiq, well, he probably doesn't even know where you are. He's never even been there. This is not right. He also talks about democracy, whilst he bins consultations that he doesn't like. So let's be honest. Labour's London is a warning to the rest of Britain. We told them that what Labour would do if they got into office, and we've seen it, haven't we? High tax, high control, low accountability. And that is why what we are doing here today really matters, not just for London, but for the whole country. As Nigel has often said, Britain is broken. Broken borders, broken public services, broken trust in politics. For decades, we were told, oh, it doesn't matter who you vote for, they're all the same. And we're living with the consequences of that lie right now, aren't we? The Conservatives talk tough, and we know, deliver nothing. Labour promises the world, yet punishes the very people they're supposed to support and represent. It is ordinary people that are left paying the price for this. But something is changing. People are waking up. I can see in this room, everybody's awake, which is great. Doesn't usually happen halfway through my speeches. They're realising that the political class simply does not work for them anymore, except for one party. What party is going to be working for the people of London and the people of Britain? Yay! That's a bit of luck. Reform is the only party prepared to say what millions are thinking. Britain needs secure borders. Taxes are too high. Net zero dogma is hurting families. Woke politics has replaced common sense. And red tape is strangling businesses. I'm proud to stand here with our leader and with Reform as we take this fight not just to Labour, but to the establishment itself. Now, let me speak directly to those of you standing or thinking of standing in the council elections on May the 7th this year. Remember this, you are not just candidates. You are our front-line troops. Local councils are where all these anti-car schemes are rolled out, where the LTNs are imposed upon people, where our freedoms are restricted, and where residents are ignored. And if we want change, we must take back power locally. Reform UK councillors Reform UK councillors oppose anti-car dogma, stand up for residents, are not beaten by lobbyists. And we also demand real consultation that we take notice of. We fight waste and vanity projects. And most importantly of all, we are going to bring common sense back to local government. So, my call to action to all of you in this hall tonight is very, very simple. If you're angry, don't complain. If you're frustrated, don't switch off. If you want change, stand with Reform. Stand as candidates, knock on doors, support our campaigns, and tell everybody you know, and even people you don't know, vote Reform on May the 7th. Sadiq Khan will not change. Labour will not listen. And the system will not fix itself. But we can, because London deserves better. Britain deserves better, and together with Reform UK, we can deliver that. With Nigel at the helm, we have the opportunity of a lifetime to change politics in London. In 4 months' time, we can wrestle back London boroughs from the grip of the tired, old and worn-out parties. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park. But with the energy I can feel in this room tonight, I know we can pull it off. So I say to every one of you in this room, come forward, stand as a candidate, stand up for your local community, and let's take our city back. Thank you.
Well, our next speaker is someone I have campaigned with for many years. In fact, he even came to my house in Suffolk to help me sign my nomination papers in 2019. He is one of the most amazing campaigners I have ever met. He has a brain the size of a planet, and he enjoys electoral statistics, and you can make of that what you will. He was elected as Reform UK's first ever London Assembly member in May of 2024. And let me tell you, he is doing a cracking job at holding Mayor Sadiq Khan to account. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alex Wilson, AM.
Hello, London, and a very happy new year to every single one of you here this evening. It's great to see so many reformers here in the Royal Docks, just a few minutes' walk from City Hall, the weird trapezoid-shaped building that houses the London Assembly, of which I am the Reform UK group leader. It's in that building that Sadiq Khan parks, or I should say, his chauffeur parks his armoured V8 Range Rover when he attends sessions of the Assembly, and I get to challenge his terrible record as London Mayor. And what a terrible record it is. London is the most congested city in Europe, in no small way thanks to the ridiculous proliferation of cycle lanes, 20 miles an hour, and so-called low-traffic neighbourhoods. It's harder than ever to get on the property ladder here in London for either purchase or for rent, in part due to out-of-control mass migration, but also thanks to persistent under-delivery of homes of all types and tenures. Over the past 2.5 years of regular hate marches, Khan has enabled a culture of virulent anti-Semitism to fester in our capital. And only now after the atrocities in Manchester and Sydney, where Jews were brutally murdered just for being Jews, has the Met Police finally been dragged kicking and screaming to accept that globalise the Intifada means exactly that. It means kill Jews everywhere and anywhere. But what terrifies me most about Sadiq Khan's administration is his catastrophic failure on policing and crime, his failure to keep London streets safe. Spoiler alert, I expect you'll hear more about this from our dynamic new London mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham, shortly. But suffice to say that on knife crime, shoplifting, street robbery, rape, and so many other crimes, Sadiq's record is one for which he should be ashamed, not rewarded with a knighthood. On Sadiq's watch, policing is in retreat. Now, when pressed on the reasons for this, he will, of course, bleat about 14 years of Tory austerity. But as ever, the real reason becomes clear when you follow the money. So just before Christmas, the Mayor published his draft consultation budget for 2026-27, and it's part of my job to scrutinise this. If you look at his draft budget document, one of the figures you won't see is how much he's spending on net zero. It's nowhere. You have to ferret around in the appendices and do some analysis on the spreadsheet. But I can tell you that Sadiq Khan is planning to spend £1.2 billion on net zero this coming year. Now, if you thought Ed Miliband was mad in his green zealotry, he's merely pursuing net zero by 2050, something that, let us not forget, the Conservatives laid down in their Climate Change Act. But our mayor, however, is on a mission to out-Ed Mad Ed. He's working to what he calls the accelerated green pathway to deliver net zero in London, not by 2050, but by 2030. Something that his own reports estimate as costing Londoners £75 billion. For an example of where this green zealotry is taking us, let's take a look at his recent announcement to close or reduce hours at the front desk at all but 2 of London's police stations. Now, when you look at the cost of keeping these front desks open, something of huge importance to Londoners, it comes to £7 million annually. The Mayor is telling us simply doesn't have the money to do this. But let's take a look at that climate change budget. And what do we find buried in the spreadsheet? £28.5 million over the next 3 years to be spent on, wait for it, decarbonising the Met's buildings while slamming the front doors in Londoners' faces. This is where the Mayor's priorities lie, and this is why we need change in London. When Richard Tice talks about net stupid zero, he is bang on. And it doesn't get any more stupid than in London. Only this week, I visited Heathrow Airport and met local community, business and trade union representatives who are desperate for the new runway to go ahead, for strengthening London's global connectivity and trade, for improving benefits for passengers through increased airline competition, but above all, for creating tens of thousands of jobs and providing a much-needed boost to economic growth. And all with a project that is 100% privately funded, with no need for a single penny of taxpayers' cash. Yet Sadiq Khan wants to waste your money on spurious legal challenges, and every party on the Assembly, except Reform, supports him. Heathrow is a crucial piece of infrastructure, not just for London, but for the country as a whole. And only Reform UK gives it our wholehearted, unequivocal support. Build, baby, build. Fly, baby, fly. In May, it will be 2 years since I was elected to the Assembly. I ploughed a slightly lonely furrow to begin with, so I'm delighted to have had Keith Prince join me in October as yet another example of Reform's growing momentum in London and around the country. But as we all know, Keith and I are not the most important Reform people in London. Come to think of it, neither is Nigel, nor is Richard, and nor even is Layla. You are the most important people in London, and here is why. May 2026 is the party's biggest test that it will ever face. Barely 18 months after launching its branch network, it's had to find 1,800 candidates in London alone to fight these council elections. Finding candidates for the 2028 London Assembly elections will be a doddle. We've already done that twice already. Finding 75 candidates for the next general election. We know that's achievable too, because we did that just 18 months ago. But 1,800 is a big ask when our local structure is still so young. And our opponents are really desperate for us to fail this important test. They're rehearsing their lines already. What did I tell you? Reform peaked too early. Reform is great on TikTok, but it still has no ground operation. Reform? It's just Nigel and an iPhone. We cannot afford to allow these opponents to say, "I told you so," come May. If voters do not see Reform candidates in full on every ballot paper, then voters will not see us as the next government. We have to demonstrate that we are willing and able to fight, win, and govern everywhere, locally and nationally. So let's take a show of hands. Who here has applied to be a candidate in May? Let's give everyone who's applied a round of applause. And if you haven't put your hand up, and you live or work in London, let me ask you, what has to happen for you to hit your tipping point and stand for change? 41,500 illegal immigrants arrived by boat in 2025. How many have to arrive before you decide it's time to stand? 50,000? 100,000? Almost 5,000 people died of cold in the winter of 2023-24, the most recent year for which we have data. Reform is the only party that will reverse net zero and cut energy bills. So what does that number have to be for you to stand? 10,000? 20,000? This government is now taking 39% of the country's GDP as tax. How much is too much? How much would that number have to be for you to stand? 45%? 50%? But if I'd been asked to come up with something to stimulate more candidate applications, I could not possibly have dreamt up what happened in this country just a fortnight ago. On Boxing Day, Keir Starmer announced that he was delighted at the arrival in the UK of Alaa Abd el-Fattah, an Egyptian terrorist sympathizer who has posted vile and insightful social media posts against Jews, the police, white people, and who in their wisdom, the Tories granted UK citizenship. Now, if being called dogs and monkeys by a hero of the uni party doesn't prompt you to put in an application to stand for reform, then what will it take? I sometimes hear people describe London as lost. Now, much as I agree, our capital is in decline. To think of its current state as irreversible or permanent is negative thinking. It also ignores the groundswell of desire for change. So London will only be lost if we fail to make the effort and campaign heartily for reform. I also hear people say that London is not natural reform territory. Let me remind you that in London, in 2016, more people voted Leave than voted for Sadiq Khan. And if our track record in council by-elections across the UK, 101 net gains since the general election, if that tells us anything, it's that everywhere in this country is natural reform territory. And that, my friends, that includes London. Now, London-specific polling since last year's local elections shows reform in clear second place, ahead of the Conservatives, ahead of the Greens, ahead of the Lib Dems. But now, we need to make it count. We are on the threshold of causing a big electoral surprise in London this May. But it won't simply fall in our laps. We have to go out and make it happen. So please join me in applying to stand or taking part in campaigning. Be the voice of common sense in your community, and it is you that will make the difference. So together, let's win this for London, let's win this for Britain. Thank you very much.
I told you, he is absolutely brilliant, isn't he? Well, our next speaker is a very good friend of mine and a man who has dedicated so much of his life to this party. Quite simply, without this man, this party would not exist. I got to know him when we served in the European Parliament in Brussels, and we have worked together since 2019. It feels like a lifetime. I taught him everything he knows about television, about hairspray, and about makeup. He really is an amazing politician. He is a passionate campaigner, and he cares deeply for his constituents in Boston and Skegness. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Deputy Leader of the party, Richard Tice MP.
Hello! All right! What a party! What a party! How is everybody? All right? Who's enjoying dry January? No, goodness me. I mean, it's extraordinary. We've had a cracking start to 2026. It's a massive year, folks. It's a big year politically. And actually, for me personally, it's become quite a big year too. Yes. Let me take you back. Boxing Day. You remember Boxing Day? Picture the scene. Lovely cozy pub in the Cotswolds. Gentleman sitting on the bar stool. His hand gripping firmly the second glass of mulled wine. That was me, folks. As I popped the question, fortunately the answer was yes. And so I then thought, well, I thought I'd try my luck with a bit of negotiation. You know, we've got a bit of negotiation with Doge going on, so I thought I'd keep in practice. So the first question, the first negotiation was if it's okay, could we wait until after May the 7th? Because we could be quite busy. That was fine, so I thought I'll push it a little bit. And as many of you know, the Consumer Contract Regulations 2013, of course, they give you a 14-day cooling off period. Well, that didn't go so well. But there are important matters ahead. There is also the issue of the price of gold. Thanks, Nigel. He's been very bullish on that. But this is an incredible year for reform, after an incredible year last year. And you think about the councils that we won complete control of and those that we are running a minority council. And we're doing incredible things. And let's just remind ourselves what we were elected to do. We were elected to cut out waste, to find savings and efficiencies, to fix problems, to cut debt, and to raise council taxes by the minimum possible and indeed lower than others. And let me tell you some fantastic news, folks. Contrary to what nonsense you might read in our beloved friends in the press, we are delivering on all of those things. Trust me. And I'm going around, and it is truly remarkable. Some of you are councillors. Last night I was meeting our councillors in the great County Durham, and they're achieving incredible things there. We saved £79 million on one contract, a waste contract, £3 million a year over the next almost 30 years, because of renegotiating that deal. I said, don't do a terrible property deal that the officers wanted to do for 30 to 40 million quid. That's proper money, folks, proper savings. And then I went over to Preston, and this morning I was meeting our brilliant councillors in Lancashire, another incredible historic county. And some of the things they're doing there, within the first few months of winning Lancashire big time, we'd cleaned 12,000 road signs that hadn't been cleaned for a decade. We're fixing potholes in the tens of thousands. We've reduced the backlog by 50,000. Here's the thing. The Tories, do you remember them? That historic party? They built an anaerobic digestion plant about over a decade ago in Lancashire. Never opened it. We're fixing that. We're refurbishing it, and we're going to save millions of pounds by opening that. Oh, the Tories also bought some AI to look at spotting potholes faster. They spent nearly 50,000 quid on it and then left it in the box 18 months ago. This is the sort of incompetence and the negligence and the mismanagement that we are now rapidly sorting out. And in Lancashire, like in County Durham, they're doing great things. You just look at some of the performance, the reductions that they're making. I'm truly humbled by the efforts of our councillors. And they're saving money, and I tell you, over the next couple of weeks, when you hear what council taxes will be, I think you're going to see some surprises, some positive surprises, that I hope our friends in the press will report upon. Because when we talked about some of the really big things, when we talked about, for example, the mismanagement of the local government pension scheme, overcharging, underperforming, potentially to over £1 billion a year, just in the reform councils? Did the press show an interest in reporting that? Did they help? Proper money, serious diligence. Well, we're on it. And I tell you, it's utterly extraordinary, the negligence that is going on there. It's truly shocking. As we speak, we're having massive rows with the vested interests, the investment managers, the advisors, the actuarial valuers. They're applying overprudence on overprudence, and it's council tax residents that suffer. And it's just not good enough. And you look at some of the other achievements, just within a few months, in Lancashire, for example, they've brought down the cost per child under the home school transport system. They brought that down by some 30% per child. These are dramatic changes by applying smart, business-like practices. And actually, as I met the chief execs of those two councils last night and this morning, they openly welcomed the proper, business-like, constructive, can-do, determined approach that Reform are bringing to running councils. And that is why we are succeeding. That is why we're making a difference. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why that our friends in the press will be completely and utterly wrong. And then there's some of this stuff is really hard, and it's really sensitive. And to talk about it, you have to have a certain amount of courage, and many people are not prepared to talk about it. So there's another critical area where we are definitely going to make some positive, constructive change. Many of you will know just before Christmas, I talked about the issue, the crisis within SEND. Everyone knows there's a crisis, but it's hard. It's very, very difficult and sensitive, and I get that. But I'm really proud that we have set up what I believe is the most expert, the most experienced working group under the chairmanship of Dame Andrea Jenkins. We've got heads, we've got parents, we've got experts. And over this next few months, they will do the work, produce some detailed recommendations. And I think that, again, in an area that councils run, I am hugely optimistic that we will achieve a triple whammy of proposals. Proposals that can actually do the most important thing of all, which is to improve outcomes for children most in need. To also make parents of SEN children happier, less frustrated, less angry with a system that is failing our children in need. And that's the tragedy of it, because we spend ever more money, but the outcomes are not improving at all. And imagine if we could do those two things and do it at a lower price. That is the triple whammy that I believe we can achieve. And it's these success stories, this momentum that we're achieving, is what gives us huge ambition as we come into these May elections. Here in London, 32 boroughs, 1,800 seats. Brilliant hearing from Keith and from Alex. Let me tell you, folks, I've got some great news. We're going to win councils in London. Yay! Be under no illusion. We're going to win. And not just London, but elsewhere, we are going to win councils, small, medium, and big. And we're going to be ready. Because what you do in business, you keep focusing on continuous improvement. And we're learning the lessons from the first few months of running these councils, so that as many of you put forward yourselves to stand as candidates, we'll be working with candidates, identifying those who might want to be leaders of councils we're going to win, who might want to head portfolios. We'll be producing a manual of what you do literally as you arrive on day one. Because let me tell you, there was no helpful manual from the Tories when we arrived on day one in May last year. All they did was build bridges to nowhere like they did in Lincolnshire for 30 million quid. So we're getting ready. We know we're going to win. We know there'll be scrutiny, but we will hit the ground running. Do you want us to do that, folks? I promise you, I absolutely promise you we're going to do that. In fact, we're already, before these elections, we're already making a difference here in London. Oh, yes, our good friends in Croydon. We discovered that the council had redacted 50% of all its expenditure so that we couldn't see who the contracts were being made and given to. 50%. We highlighted it at the beginning of the week, thanks to some work of some brilliant reformers. And by today, folks, we've already secured change and influence. The Mayor of Croydon has accepted it's wrong and is going to release the names of that and bring it down to the average. What great news! Which takes me over to sunny Ealing, where they've redacted about 40% of their expenditure. And so we're asking the leaders of Ealing, could you tell us who actually these suppliers are? The average should be about 4 or 5%. That's Ealing. And then our good friends in Newham, my word, what a terrible job they're doing running Newham. They've redacted about 35%. You have to ask yourselves, what have you got to hide? Why are you embarrassed about it? So hopefully the good folk of Newham, the leaders there, will also confirm where all those suppliers, where those contracts are placed. That's the sort of influence and change that we can bring as we take over councils. And before I conclude, folks, and we bring on the fantastic mayoral candidate that is going to become the new sheriff in town in a couple of years, trust me, I promise you, she is. I do just want to, because, New Year, New Year's resolutions, we must be nice and kind and compassionate to our friends in the press. So I'll start with the Financial Times. I'm sure many of you read it, gripped every day. It's an international financial newspaper. It's pink. It was a bit surprising in December that international financiers flying around the world and in the City of London would find it interesting on page 2, I suppose it's better than page 3, on consecutive days to hear about one individual reform councillor in some part of the country that they probably couldn't even identify. You think, what's going on? Oh, no, we'd now discover that they've they've employed one person specifically almost to write about reform councils. Nice article earlier this week, utterly fake news, as we will prove shortly. You sort of think, why don't they focus on matters financial? Did they contact me and ask for an interview about the overcharging of investment management fees on 60 billion quid? You might think that's quite an important financial matter. Local government pension schemes, over 400 billion quid. Do you think the FT might have an interest in that? No interest at all. That's the FT. Where shall I go next? You know how newspapers, they release sort of exclusives and they break news because they've got an insider? Well, the good news is, folks, we've now got an insider in the insiders of the newspapers. So our good friends at The Guardian, I can exclusively reveal what they think will be an exclusive story, except I'm going to blow the exclusive. So they're working with people who were expelled from reform, and they think it's a shocking thing if you're a mason. Whether it's a stonemason, who knows? You might be a brilliant bricklayer, a brilliant stonemason. No, that's a terrible thing. You might be a Freemason. Apparently that's going to be a really bad thing, because apparently that means that automatically you must be corrupt, you must have completely ignored all of the procurement processes that are run by the officers, by the way, in the councils. You can't just rock up as a newly elected councillor, tell the officers to go and do one, and start placing contracts. No, apparently, according to The Guardian, this is their exclusive. This is what our Masons apparently are doing. Thanks, Guardian. I've blown your exclusive. And that brings me on finally, but definitely not least. We've got another exclusive of an exclusive. So this one's from the Sunday Times. Our good friends at the Sunday Times. They've got a new journalist. He's just come back, actually, from overseas. And he's written to all independent councillors and opposition councillors in reform councils a very nice email. Happy New Year, he gently starts. I'm a reporter at the Sunday Times. I'm putting together a large article that will explore the extent of reform's DOGE cuts across the country. The aim is to highlight every single project or initiative. Initiative's quite a good thing, isn't it? Anything where we might be saving money, where we might be stripping back, where we might be making efficiencies. No, apparently that's all a bad thing. I'm reaching out to opposition councillors. It's quite extraordinary. Anything where he thinks anybody's going to suffer. No one's suffering under reform, they're benefiting. This is what the Sunday Times journo's up to. This is the establishment at work, folks. This is what they're going to try and do. They're going to try and continue to talk nonsense with their fake news and discreditors. I'm slightly confused, though, because 2 months ago, it's like the equivalent of, imagine on last Sunday, the Sunday Times might have said, well, we're not finding any savings. We're doing a terrible job, there's no efficiencies, there's no savings. By the middle of the week, we come back and we say, well, hang on, we found hundreds of millions of savings. Then they said, no, they're not real savings. They even stood up in PMQs and said they're not real savings. So that's the middle of the week. And then next weekend, blow me down. Crikey. We found some savings, we found some efficiencies, but that's a terrible thing as well. What the hell's going on? Either you want us, our good friends in the press, to find some savings and efficiencies, or you don't. Make your mind up. Honestly. This is what we're up against. The establishment doesn't want us to win. But the great news is, folks, voters want us to win. You want us to win. And I promise you, under the leadership of Nigel Farage, here in London, under the leadership of Leila Cunningham, folks, I've great news. In this Happy New Year, we are going to win. Thank you very much.
Well, wasn't he good? Told you. Now, our penultimate speaker has been a Westminster City Councillor since 2022. She represents Lancaster Gate Ward, an area I know very well indeed. It's just down the road from the hospital where I trained. Now, when she defected to us in June of last year, she became Reform UK's first elected councillor in London. She is a former Crown prosecutor, an eloquent and very passionate campaigner, and this week, we announced she is now Reform UK's candidate in the upcoming mayoral elections. And knowing her as I do, let me tell you, she is a force to be reckoned with. Sadiq Khan, be scared. Now, before we meet her, let's see her in action.
Good morning, everybody. Can't help feeling a slight sense of déjà vu standing here, because it was in this very room when I decided that I would come out of political retirement and come back and get involved as leader of Reform. So it's been an amazing 18 months. But today I want to take the opportunity to remind everybody that on the 7th of May, we will see the single most significant set of electoral tests in this country between now and the general election. Layla Cunningham, from this moment on, will be the head of Reform UK London, our candidate for the mayor next year, as we fight a strong, vigorous campaign in all 32 London boroughs in the run-up to May the 7th.
Imagine London safe again. Imagine pride again. Imagine the capital city of the United Kingdom restored to its former glory. Strong, confident, prosperous, and secure. This is the London I believe in, and that is the London I will fight for. A London where our flag will be flown proudly across the city as a symbol of unity, belonging, and as a symbol of our British pride. This city made me who I am, and as mayor, I will fight for it. I will fight as hard as I can for the London that it should be. A united London. No more splitting us in boxes, black, white, gay, straight. We are all Londoners. Over the next 2 years, I will put together the most serious, detailed plan for London that any party has produced. And I won't do it from behind a desk. I will go borough to borough, estate to estate, high street to high street, listening to Londoners. The choice of Khan v Cunningham is a choice that you will make that will decide the future of London, the future of the best city in the world. So I tell you this, vote for the freedom that safety brings. Vote for Reform. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Reform UK prospective candidate for Mayor of London, Layla Cunningham.
London! Finally, London has hope. And that hope comes down to all of you. We announced this week that I'm standing to be the next mayor of London, but that election is 2.5 years away. The first battle for the future of London starts today, but it is won on May 7th. These local elections are not a sideshow. They're not low stakes, they're not irrelevant. They are the first referendum on Sadiq Khan's London. And we have to make everyone know that his time is up. And to all of you, every Labour councillor who gets elected in May is a vote to keep this disaster going. Every councillor who stays in place is another propping him up while London burns. May 7th is London's chance to begin taking this city back, and that's why every single person in this room matters. I've got to put it to you, you're not here to just clap. We expect you to stand, to campaign, to knock on doors, to deliver leaflets, and especially to run as candidates, to become the political shockwave that this city has not felt in decades. It is up to us, ladies and gentlemen, because London finally has something it hasn't had for a very long time. A real alternative and hope. Because finally reform has landed in London. London doesn't belong to Labour. It doesn't belong to the Tories. It belongs to the people. And that's why you're all here, because the fight to win back London, a London that works for Londoners, not just politicians, not just Labour politicians, but one that works for all of us. Because I can assure you that reform, we're not here to defend failure. We're not here to defend the status quo. No, we're here to change it because the status quo doesn't suit the people. A party that stands for the people who live here, not the political class that ruined it. So from now until May 7th, I will be in every borough. I've already been seeing a few of you. Every corner of this city, building the force that defeats Khan's machine. Council by council, ward by ward, person by person. I can't do it alone. I want you all with me. London is my home. It really made me who I am. I was born here. I discovered my basketball skills here, and I perfected them here. I played in the London Youth Games. I became a senior Crown prosecuting here, and I'm raising my 7 children here, and that is 7 reasons why this fight matters to me more than any election ever could. And I know all of you are here fighting for your family and your children. I love this city, and I know you all love it just as much as me, but I'm not blind to what it's become. London, one of the greatest cities on earth, probably the greatest city, is no longer safe. And that didn't happen by accident. That happened by a betrayal, by neglect. That happened on Sadiq Khan's watch. Let's just go through some of the stats. Knife crime, up by 68% during his 10 years. Robbery, 50%. More than 100,000 phones stolen every year. Ladies and gentlemen, we are also living in a rape epidemic. And for me, crime is an abstract. You all know the story of how my children were targeted by masked men. Day after day, we were terrified. And in a civilized society, in a proper country with proper leadership, I could have relied on the police. But no, I was told there weren't enough resources. Not enough resources. So I had to gather the evidence myself. I had a baby, I put him on the baby carrier, I followed the gangs, I took photos. I protected my children when the state couldn't. And I know a lot of you would do the same. But none of us should ever have to be in that position. I shouldn't have had to be in that position. There should have been police, but most of all, there should have been leadership. There should have been a mayor that cares. But we all know there isn't. I speak to so many women who don't feel safe. In fact, I went to Zara the other day, and the manager there comes up to me and she whispers and she goes, you know, are you Layla? She goes, you know, I'm the manager. I go, why are you whispering? She goes, oh, you know, because can't tell them I'm supporting reform. But she says, I've never voted before, but I'm going to vote for you 100% because she was on a bus and she was being touched up by a foreign man. She didn't want to tell me where he was from. She got to the end of the bus stop. The police were there. They arrested him. Oh, she had a sigh of relief. She got on the bus. The next day, he was sat next to her again. Another time, it happened to her again. And she was met at the end of the bus stop by her husband and the police officer. Sorry, it was her boyfriend. And the boyfriend told the man, you touch my girl again, you rat, and I'm going to show you what's coming. You know what happened? The police said, if you talk to him again, we're going to have to arrest you for racial abuse. Exactly that. She said another time, and this is true, she was mugged for her phone at knife points. The youth was arrested. It was a youth. He had 5 phones on him. The police rang her and said, you know what, we had to let him go, madam, because he's a youth. This is what's happening on our streets. Parents panic when their children don't answer the phone. I panic when my son's out. Has he got into a fight? Has someone pulled a knife? And I see masked gangs roam our streets like no one is in charge and no one's going to stop them. And you know what? No one will. The social contract between us and the state has collapsed. You know why? because the state has failed in its first duty. And that duty is to keep us safe. You can't have private police. Police and safety is the one thing that we rely solely on the government for. You have enough money, if you're lucky enough, you can go privately to a school, you can go privately to a doctor. You cannot have your own private police force. And when people say that Khan doesn't listen, that's an understatement. He attacks, he smears, he calls us racist for saying London isn't dangerous. He says we're lying because we're all Islamophobic, because he's Muslim. That's what it all comes down to for him. Identity politics, and that's an insult to victims. It's an insult to my kids, it's an insult to you, and it's an insult to Londoners. You know what it is? It's a coward's excuse for failure. Londoners are scared because London is more dangerous. 3 men were just stabbed on Edgware Road this week. You know what? We read it and we're like, oh, yeah? We've become accustomed to it. That's not normal. And he still tells us, my fight against crime is working. Shall we recap his so-called fight against crime? Visible policing, basically non-existent. Any of you see a police when you walk down the street? Stop and search halved, even though we know, and he knows that stop and search prevents knife crime. But again, he politicized it. He boiled it down to identity politics. And what does he do? What does he do in the face of all rising violent crime? He diverts officers into policing tweets, mums and pups at home instead of the streets. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how criminals took control of our great city. And here's the truth, by the way, he's not a bystander. He is responsible. He is the Police and Crime Commissioner. He appoints the Met Commissioner. He sets the priorities. He signs off the budget. The chaos, the danger is because of him. So I'll tell you this, London. If I'm mayor, there will be visible policing. There will be a zero-tolerance approach, because even if you shoplift a £20 piece of steak, that's corrosive to the community. There will be consequences. You know what there'll be? There'll be a new sheriff in town. And I will launch, I can assure you, an all-out war on crime against knife gangs, drug dealers, phone thieves, shoplifters. And those rape gangs that have been ignored, I can assure you, they will have nowhere to hide. It will be a reckoning. Every single person who let those girls down, there will be a reckoning for them. There will be nowhere for them to hide. See, London isn't just another city, is it? It is the capital of the United Kingdom. It should be a place of pride, of confidence, of belonging. A place where our British flag is seen everywhere as a symbol of everything we share. Our history, our freedoms, our law, our greatness. When that flag flies all over London, it tells anyone that comes here that this country is worth standing up for. And Londoners have had enough of being divided. Pitted against each other. Because in reform, it doesn't matter who you pray to or who you love, your sexual preference. If you believe in this country, if you stand up for Britain, then you are a Londoner that we all stand with. That shared pride is what will bring this city back together. United and make London strong again. And this fight doesn't begin, by the way, in 2.5 years. It begins on May 7th. That is when we break Labour's grip on this city. Every person standing here, Every Reform councillor elected is a message to Labour and City Hall. Your time is up. Every Reform volunteer is another door knocked. Every candidate is another crack in the machine. Every leafleting round is another family hearing the truth, is another family with hope. This is how we beat them, not waiting. If you are here tonight, I know you care about this city. Please, put yourself forward. Stand for your ward. Be the person who refuses to let London go, who refuses to let our city be dominated by those that don't care about us, that don't prioritize us. But I'll tell you this, winning back London doesn't start with me. It doesn't start with politics. It starts when people finally say, we will not be governed by politicians who are only in it for themselves. We want a London that works for Londoners, not politicians. He knew that the ULEZ expansion would target the very poorest. He knew. He just didn't care because it worked for him. I want the freedom that safety brings, the freedom to walk home and not be worried that you're going to be mugged, the freedom to let my children go out and not have to call them incessantly and track them on their phone, the freedom to build a future in London without fear. And let's face it, this dream for a safe, secure, united London wouldn't be possible without Nigel. Because for the first time in a generation, Britain has a leader who actually believes in this country, who believes in its people, and a leader that speaks for us, not at us. He didn't build this movement for Westminster. He built it to give the people, to give you your voice back. And that voice is coming to London. On May 7th, we take the first step. We take it together. We break London's grip. We send a message that this city doesn't belong to anyone but the people. And from there, we march, flag in hand, all the way to City Hall. So on May 7th, please, do everything you can so people can have a safe London, a proud London, a London that works. Vote reform, stand for reform, and let's take London back. Thank you.
She will make the most amazing mayor of London, won't she? Well, that brings us nicely to our final speaker. He is a man who needs no introduction. He is arguably the most famous politician in this country, if not the world. His career is long, it's distinguished, and it's most certainly varied. And thanks to I'm a Celebrity, there isn't much of this man I haven't seen. He is a social media sensation, and he has gained a whole legion of new, young supporters. Now, last year, he was voted most influential politician in Britain at the Spectator Awards. Now, YouGov now cites him as the most popular politician in the country. And goodness knows what he will get up to this year. But soon, he will make history again when, ladies and gentlemen, he becomes the next British Prime Minister. Let's pause and see him in action.
We are all ships rising on a turquoise tide, headed towards winning the next general election. This government is deep in crisis. They are not fit to govern. The Conservative Party are riven. There is a new, strong, unified party, the party that stands up for decent, working people, and we are the party on the rise. The energy has been unbelievable. The enthusiasm has been extraordinary. You are the people's army.
Reform is now in government. And the big shout-out message, and it's very, very clear, is if you vote reform, you get reform. And when it comes to country, of what a nation is, this is where I do personally want to confront the Prime Minister head on.
No one cares more about the state of this country than I do.
There is nobody more determined than me.
But I tell you what, folks, that was just the beginning. Thank you very much indeed.
Please welcome to the stage the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage.
Wow. Wow. No one does pyrotechnics like Reform. And on May the 7th, across this country, there are going to be electoral pyrotechnics, the likes of which the other parties won't know what's hit them. You know, on a cold Friday evening in early January, to get a turnout like this in London is something that no other political party could do. And that's because, yes, of course, we know that Britain is broken. We know nothing works anymore. We know our politicians have been hopeless, led our country into decline. But we're not here because we're miserable. We're here because of one four-letter word. Not that one. Well, it could have been. No, we're here because we are providing something that none of the others can. We are providing genuine hope for the people of this country that we can turn things around. Now, on the international stage, the year has got off to the most extraordinary start. Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, was a very, very bad man, and his removal is a good thing, and well done, America. Well done, America. I mean, his illegitimate rule led to no fewer than 8 million people fleeing Venezuela. That's even more than have left Keir Starmer's Britain. Although I do worry at times our Prime Minister has similar, not the same, but similar authoritarian instincts. But what is going on right now in Iran is something that should give us great thought. Back in 2015, President Obama, the European Union, the British Foreign Office, and then later on Boris Johnson and all the rest did a deal with this appalling, evil regime that has been there for 50 years, that has continued their theocratic, appalling, barbarous rule. And I want to say this to those brave men and women out there on the streets of Tehran and elsewhere now, fighting to get back their freedoms, their liberties. As far as I'm concerned right now, long live the revolution. I pray for the Persian people. The Persian people are wonderful people. They're great people, educated people, brilliant people, and I pray for them, for their safety and their freedom. But of course, we can't even begin to discuss global politics without the war in Ukraine. I found it quite extraordinary that our failing Prime Minister, by the way, he's now the most unpopular Prime Minister there's ever been. I'm sure there are some supporters of Keir Starmer in the room here tonight. Well, I tried. It's my time on GB News. I have to seek balance, you see. Otherwise, Ofcom will kick me off. He went to Paris, had the summit with Zelensky, had the summit with President Macron. Did you watch him delivering his speech? Classic Starmer. This shows you why this man is not fit to be the leader of this country. He stood with a sheet of paper, giving a statement, committing British troops after a peace deal to go into Ukraine for an unlimited period of time. And he had to look down at his notes every 2 seconds. Do you know when he was elected, on July the 5th, he stood outside Downing Street, delivered a 9-minute speech, and had to look at his notes 158 times. We're led by a man who frankly believes in nothing. We're led by a man who doesn't have a goal, a vision, which is why he gets blown around by events. His 12th U-turn is going to be on the pubs. Mind you, I quite like his U-turns. He's not a leader. But he said he was the head of the coalition of the willing. But who else was there with him? Macron, Starmer. Where were the Germans? Not going to commit to anything. Where were the Italians? Giorgia Meloni was out the back having a fag. When we went into Afghanistan in 2002, on day one, there were 18 countries committing troops and money and resources. By the end of the Afghanistan campaign, 51 nations had taken part. This coalition of the willing, this commitment to British troops, and bear in mind, in 14 years of Conservative government, our armed forces were hollowed out in what I think is the most shameful way. The coalition of the willing isn't the 18 that went into Afghanistan, isn't the 51 that served there in the end. It's 2. It's us and the French. And frankly, and this matters, because if we do get a peace deal, I do not want an under-resourced, an undermanned, an underfunded, an under-equipped British Army going into a mission of indeterminate length at massive cost when, frankly, all we've got are our friends, the French, with us. But it sums up Starmer. He thinks of everything in terms of the international order, in terms of what do the others think of us. He's even prepared not just to give away the Chagos Islands, but to pay to give away what's already ours. And now, despite manifesto commitments, he's now doing his best to give away our parliamentary sovereignty, to give away your rights as voters, and to betray something that will enjoy its 10th anniversary on June the 23rd next year. The Brexit referendum. You remember it, the greatest exercise in democracy ever exercised in this country. And despite everyone telling us we'd lose our jobs, we'd lose our houses, plagues of black locusts would descend on our country, we told the establishment where to go. We voted to leave. We voted to take back control of our own country. A huge historic moment. The trouble was, the Tory government just never believed in it and didn't fully deliver it. In fact, in terms of the millions that voted to control our borders, the millions that voted to reduce the numbers coming into Britain, what did we get? The opposite. The very opposite. At the peak of the Boris wave, net 1 million people came into Britain in the space of just 1 year. And it's a betrayal for which the Conservative Party will never be forgiven, and that is why we're here. We are replacing the Conservative Party. Oh, they might hang on for a bit, but they're done. They're done just in the way the Liberals were almost exactly 100 years ago. But Starmer is committing us to everything. The Erasmus programme, which means more European students come here than our students can go there, when we have the Turing programme that we're sending our students all around the world. He's committing us to a European energy policy. I thought our own net zero policy was mad enough without more coming from Brussels. Bit by bit, he's taking away the ability, not just of our own parliament to make decisions, but of your rights as voters to decide who should take those decisions. And I promise you, we will fight this giveaway, this surrender of our sovereignty, of our money, of our fishing grounds, and everything else, and we'll fight it tooth and nail. We'll fight it all the way. But in many ways, it's worse than that. Two-tier care. What is he? I can't say that out loud in front of all these people. The situation is so bad. We are led by people with such craven cowardice. They are not prepared to stand up for the values that made this country great and the values we need to bring back that matter, which is why we stand for family, community, and country. That is what we're about.
as a party. Family, community, and country. We've given in. We've given in to the hard left lobby. We've given in to the extremists. Things have got so bad that we learned today that the United Arab Emirates will no longer sponsor their students to come to Britain for fear they'll be radicalized by the Muslim Brotherhood or other bad forces. That is how low we have sunk as a nation. And what about this city? David Bull gave the best history A-level lecture I've heard for many a long year. But actually, you've only got to go back a couple of decades when London was booming, wasn't it? London was thriving. London was a place that companies from all over the world wanted to come, set up headquarters, invest. It was a trendy, great place for young people to come, an amazing cultural centre. But what is it now? Looked down upon by much of the rest of the world. In an epidemic, a crime wave led by foreign gangs of epidemic proportions, and yet a police force who seem more concerned about what you may have said, sir, on Facebook than what is going on the streets of London every single day. May the 7th this year is the single biggest electoral test this country will have between now and the next general election. None of us know when that election will be. It doesn't have to be till 29, but my guess is that another couple of years of Rachel from accounts. You know she was a senior economist at the Bank of England for 10 years, don't you? Talk about low grade, goodness me. Another couple of budgets like this and the markets will get them out. I think the election will come in 27. But either way, May the 7th is huge. May the 7th is huge. All 32 London boroughs will vote. The whole of Scotland will vote. The whole of Wales will vote. And much of England was supposed to be having a vote. And now we learn that up to 10 million people may be deprived of their vote. In some cases, for the second year in a row. These are the actions, not just of a Labour government, but with the connivance in some counties of the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. Denying elections is the behaviour of a banana republic. And we'll know by midnight on Wednesday just how many of these elections have been cancelled. Well, I was going to save this announcement for next week, but you know what? I can trust you, can't I? None of you will leak any of this, will you? When we find out how many of the mayoral and county and local elections, districts and boroughs have been cancelled, then next Thursday we are primed and ready, and we will launch a judicial review against the government for these actions. My apologies to the press office for not saving it. I just couldn't resist it. Because that is what we're about, isn't it? We're about settling our arguments at the ballot box. That is the fundamental of democracy. We have this
so that we don't fight each other. It's what generations that went before gave so much to defend that very principle. And if the others won't fight for it, we will. Now, the London elections this year will go ahead. All 32 London boroughs. And while it may be 2 and a bit years until we have the mayoral elections, there is no doubt that when people vote on May the 7th in these 32 boroughs, many will be thinking about the direction London has gone in. Many will be thinking about Sadiq Khan. But as of this week, and we've hit the ground running in 2026, as of this week, when they vote, yes, they'll think about local candidates. Yes, they'll think about local councils. But they'll also understand that this is the next big step before the mayoral elections in London. And after this week, they'll also be thinking about the excellent, bold, brave Lila Cunningham. And I really believe she's going to do the most fantastic job. The most fantastic job. Does she have the support, London, of our members? Good. Good. Well, then I've made a good choice then. But you know, you come along to this event, and as I say, to get a turnout like this early in January in London is astonishing. But this is not, as they say, a free lunch, because I need something from you. Politics is, of course, about leadership. Politics is, of course, about policy. Politics, of course, is about principle. But politics only really succeeds when it's backed up by that face-to-face contact. Whether it's talking to somebody in the pub, whether it's knocking on doors, whether it's out delivering leaflets, meeting people in the streets. What we do as a party at grassroots level, what you can do in all your own ways to persuade other people to turn out and vote on May the 7th will make a massive material difference to how many seats we win, to how many councils we win, and to what our percentage chance of beating Khan in 2028 is. So you sitting here before me, you are the people's army. And my job tonight is to mobilize the people's army. I need you, if you haven't yet thought about it, to say, yes, I'll stand in my council in London on May the 7th this year. I will get involved with my local branch ahead of May the 7th in these elections this year. I'm prepared to deliver leaflets in my street. I'm prepared to help with a street stall. I'm prepared to help raising a bit of money. I need you to be mobilized. I can't achieve my goals. Layla can't achieve her goals. None of our candidates already there can achieve their goals unless you're prepared to help us. So let me ask you, are you prepared to commit tonight? Are you prepared to help us? Good. Well, listen. I'm now going to do the procedural bit. So, around the outside of this hall, we have the branches in London we've set up already. I will show you where to go. Please go to your local branch. Please go to your local area. Please meet people. Please commit to doing something, and I'll tell you where to go. We start over here, Greenwich, There we go, active branch already, I can tell. Lewisham, Bexley, Bromley, Richmond upon Thames, Wandsworth, Lambeth. Bit of work needed for Lambeth, isn't there? Southwark, Harrow, Ealing, cities of London and Westminster, Camden, Waltham Forest, Enfield, Barking and Dagenham, Havering, Barnet, and Brent. Right? Now, on the other side, and by the way, the fact we have all these branches set up already shows you the incredible strides we've made in a very, very short space of time. It's just that most of you here will not yet be connected to these branches, hence why I'm explaining. Over here on the other side, Tower Hamlets, Hammersmith and Fulham, Merton, Kingston upon Thames, Hounslow, Hillingdon, Sutton, Croydon, Haringey, Hackney and Islington, Newham, and Redbridge. So I couldn't have made myself clearer, could I? I want you, please, when this is over, to go to the relevant part of the room and please, whatever you can or cannot do, volunteer. We need your help. I know it sounds a bit like an evangelist meeting, but it is. No, it is. We want our country back. We know it's in trouble, and we're going to fight for it. All right? We're going to fight for it. We're going to fight hard for it. And you know what? We've now led for nearly 200 opinion polls in a row. We have a Prime Minister and a press who are sinking to the gutter in terms of their abuse. But you know what? We're not going to reply. We're not going to respond. We're going to ignore them. We're going to hold our heads high as proud British people trying to build a better future for those that come after us. And I'm confident we can do this. I'm confident we can change the future of British history. Are you? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.